Alright everybody, today we are going to feed my 125, but we're going to feed bloodworms and we're going to feed them to the bottom of the tank. I've got a Peter's Elephantnose fish down in there somewhere, and when I get his attention, if he comes down towards this end of the tank, what we're going to do is use a standard piece of PVC pipe with a little crook at the end, no big deal, and then we are going to take our little shot glass full of thawed out bloodworms. Now the reason I thaw them out, and if you can tell the liquid there is very clear, when you get these in there in the little frozen cubes, the binding agent is actually guar gum, and while that won't hurt your tank if you put it in there, it won't bother your fish or anything, it will increase your phosphates. So if you're concerned about algal growth and organics being at higher levels in your tank, you really probably want to rinse that stuff off. It's easy enough to do. Let's get started on pouring some in here, and I can explain how to rinse it off easy enough. I think at first I'm going to pour them in an open enough area that everybody gets some, and then I might try to tuck a little bit back in underneath some of the plants. And you just simply swirl them around and pour them down the pipe, and they'll come right out the bottom. Now if I had flushed water through there, they would have all come out right at the bottom, but I'm trying to save some until I can actually see my Elephantnose. I still have not seen him make an appearance. I suppose maybe I could have waited to start filming until he was out and about. Oh, there he is. He's down there right behind the plant that the Tenopoma is sitting in front of. He's down there actually getting some of the things already. So this time I'm actually going to pour the rest of them down into an area that's going to make it easier for him to get, and the other fish won't be able to get to them so easily. So we're going to put them down here kind of behind this piece of wood. So now that I've poured all the worms out, what I do is I just scoop some more water out and just pour the water down the pipe, and you do that 2 or 3 times and you will actually just flush all the worms right out down at the bottom. And I just deposited a whole bunch of them down in an area that's going to be sort of small enough that hopefully the larger fish won't be able to get to, and that'll make sure that the Elephantnose gets his share of them. So as far as the way I rinse the worms off, it's easy enough to do. I simply put a cube or two in the shot glass with some water and just let it sit until all of the worms have thawed out and fallen to the bottom of the glass. I gently pour as much water off as I can without pouring any worms out, and then I pour, I top it back off with water and swirl it all around. Again, I let it sit until the worms settle for a few minutes. Once they've done that, I top it back off with water, and I do that 2 or 3 times until the water's nice and clear, and it's as simple as that. It's nothing complicated or difficult. It's a little bit time consuming. If you want, you can just plop the frozen cube in. I've heard people say not to do that, but I've done it before. I've never seen any issue with it. I suppose maybe if you've got a larger fish that gulped it in and swallowed it all at once, maybe it wouldn't be a good idea to swallow effectively a piece of ice, something frozen like that, but I don't know. I can't imagine that happen. I've seen my Tenopoma put a frozen cube in his mouth and then sort of spit it back out and then suck it back in and spit it back out, and every time he did, more and more worms broke off of it, and that was pretty much the end of it. It was no big deal. I didn't really see what the issue was, but I've heard people say not to throw it in frozen. Again, make what you want of that. I don't really know what the the reasoning behind not throwing it in frozen is. But that's why I rinse them off. I just try to keep my phosphates to a minimum. My nitrates are always really high. Every time I've checked my phosphates, they're not too high, but I don't need to do anything to make them any higher, or I would have even more issues with algae and cyanobacteria and all the other sort of nuisance growth I have in my tanks. So I suppose that was the big bulk of the frenzy. Most of the stuff is gone. You can see my Synodontis there. He's still digging around He's not afraid to sort of get down there and burrow in underneath the nooks and crannies and get some of those worms that maybe the other fish haven't gotten to. But no doubt the Elephantnose has gotten some. I see him moving all around the tank, and I've never really had any issues with him the whole time I've had him, so I'm assuming he finds food easily enough. So I will say thank you for watching this one. I'll ask you to please subscribe, that way you won't miss anything I've got coming up. This is my 125. So I've got lots and lots of videos of this tank along with all my others, and if you're subscribed you won't miss anything that's going to be coming up in the future. So thanks for watching. I'll see you real soon on the next one.